Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update. I want to give you all a little bit of time to get on in the virtual room before we start this live discussion. Make sure you are tagging in your Washington Commanders loving family and friends before we get started. And while you're tuning in, make sure you hit that love button, like button, drop a fire emoji in the chat so that we know that you are here. I am your host, Seawall, checking in. You all know it's training camp season, so we're still in training camp mode. All things training camp, okay? All things, you name it, it's training camp, all right? Have you dropped a hello in the chat? Do we know that you're engaged in this live discussion? And while you're doing that, let me remind you that this is a live Bowie Television recording. Everything we say here just might end up on the Tizoob. You can find the Coaching from the Couch series each and every single day on Verizon Channel 11 and Comcast Xfinity Channel 77. But of course, hey, watching on the TV is always a lot of fun. But you got to always check in for the live discussion in case, hey, one of your questions might end up popping up. So are you all tapping in? Everybody say hello to Mama Waller. I see Cameron Mingo has locked in. There is a lot to discuss as always. Preseason game 1, Commanders versus Cleveland. Then joint practices coming up this week. We got a couple more times to talk to each other, though, before preseason game 2. But if you all are all checked in and we all are ready to go, guess what? Want to show you all some clips first. We're going to go into a bit of the sights and the sounds of training camp. Then I'll get into some of the comments that I received regarding preseason game 1 to see how you all are feeling about it. And then we'll go ahead and have a discussion. Liddell, what's up with you? Haven't seen you in a while. But since we have so much content to get into, why not just go ahead and get started with the video content? Love button, fire emoji if you all are ready to go. Because you already know that Seawall is absolutely ready to get the conversation started. Check out some of the sights and sounds from training camp over the past weekend.
Chase, he self-reported a stinger during the game, and so through an abundance of caution, we have slowed him down just to be smart. More so anything else, and he's got to get one more final exam so we can get him back out there. Everything has been fine. Again, we're just being careful because this was a self-reported stinger, so we officially, I don't want to say protocol, but we have to follow it. Tweaked his calf. And he did come back in the end of the game to take the breath. Today, he's a little sore. Sore yesterday, sore today. And so training staff wanted to slow him down a little bit. So we did a few things, and we settled down.
I know last year at camp that soft tissue injuries were a real issue. Not only thankfully only a few are dealing with some stuff. Are there things that you guys have done to try to get ahead of those, or I know you can prevent injuries?
Well, just probably the biggest thing more than anything else, and been quite helpful has been the weather. The weather being the way it was early in camp, it allowed for us to get a lot of conditioning in during camp. And because of that, I think our guys have, for the most part, just been able to ride right through it. So I think that's something that's been really helpful. We ramped it up gradually as we got into the thick of things. The weather really cooperated as far as being cooler. And these next few days are going to test us because the weather's going to be there as well, the intensity will ramp up.
What have you seen from Mitchell?
Teams are maybe handling preseason.
And that's exactly what it is. One of the things that the league has shared with us has been the analytics that they've gotten on this on the joint practices. They've found that teams that in the last few years have had joint practices, the injury rate is 1 through 5 in the regular season go down. They've had a lot fewer, so that's one of the things that kind of stood out when we talked about it. I did do it in the past, and did feel that coming out of the gate, we had a lot more, I think, intensity in terms of the way we approach things. So I just wanted to keep it that way, knowing that, especially with the injury, that's really important.
And then, obviously, I'll ask a couple more. The slow start you guys have, can this help find out more about the team and maybe help put you in a better position for more?
I think so. I think it does give us a little bit more insight. I like the fact that we're doing it somewhere close. We're going against a team that's going to step up. And I think there's a lot of things that we can learn as a group of these guys. So that's why I'm excited about it. I do like the idea of having the intensity ramped up, having these guys, be competitive for a couple of days. And to your point, also, that also means we can be smart with them as we get into the rest of the preseason.
And is there a group that you're looking forward to seeing more working up there, maybe with the offensive line glued together and all that?
See, I think that's important more than anything else. Is going against a group of guys you don't know. So I think it's going to be one of those things that it's going to kind of push our guys to have to be good about every little detail. I mean, they should be all the time, but now you're going against a group that you really don't know. So there's a lot of things that you have to focus in on as you prepare.
We're taking pictures, guys.
We got you. We got a couple birthdays right now.
So if you are just checking in, you are now watching the Washington Commanders update. I am your host, C. Wall, bringing this live discussion for you from Bowie Television every day on the Tizu, Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity 77. But you can always chime in whenever we're having a live discussion on the Washington Commanders. If you're just tuning in, make sure you hit that love button, hit that like button, drop a fire emoji in the chat, and make sure you're sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. Now, why don't we? Any good takeaways from those sights and sounds? See if anything caught your ears and attention to what Coach Rivera said in a couple of those snippets that we shared from his press conference. We're going to definitely get into Commanders Ravens joint practice in a moment. Trust me on that. We're going to get into it. But before that, of course, we have to talk about the Commanders and Browns first preseason game. Now, I have a ton of notes. I don't know how many of these that I'm going to go through. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking down at my notes. But before we get into that, as I mentioned, I had some comments come through. I asked folks, I said, hey, what do folks think about the game? What's your opinion? So I got a couple comments. So I want to go through some of those comments. Drop in the chat how you are feeling about the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Just what your overall thoughts. I see a couple more folks. Seawall Chaplain, Masdak Merrick has jumped in, and I see Robbie as well. Hey there, you all. So let's get into some of these comments. So I asked Commanders fans, what's your thoughts? You see here, Lakeisha Walker says solid. Chris Couch Coach Powell says, loved it. You can tell they're taking preseason seriously. Definitely looking forward to the growth of this team. Bundle King Bennett says, not bad. Anybody agree with any of these comments? Any thoughts here? Go ahead and let me know. Moving on, William Collins says the QBs look solid, secondary on point, O-line protected well. Al Williams made a comment that said, I'm excited about our QB situation. Eric Taylor also had a similar sentiment, and I'm a lot more confident in our QB situation. Let me know which comments resonate with you and what you're thinking. Here's some more. Cedric Patrick says, O-line can run block with best of them, but pass block, OMG. Once offense settled in, decent game, D-line can hunt. Ron Blackwell had a comment about the young wide receiver, number 10, that's Kaz Allen, may be a very good punt returner. Birdman Hawk says, defense flying to the ball, corners attacking, offense seems to be more happy, more options. Here's one from Eugene White. Run blocking great, pass blocking still a struggle, but they're learning a new offense. Howell looked comfortable and decent. Running backs look good. Running and catching. Wide receivers are the best part of the team. Defense looked decent, but still weak with running quarterbacks. Kevin Williams said we need to work on that O-line. So we got to, and then Jackie Cook says O-line with a bunch of question marks. So it's already a little split in these comments on what folks think about the O-line. Marcus Matthews is like, Wayne. And another comment here that says basically, where was Chase Young? Let's check the chat to see what others may think. Okay, so Robbie, I thought they started slow but played better in the middle. The ending wasn't great, but those are their string. Cameron Mingo, I agree, was a solid performance, but they can be better. First String Podcast is a starting point. We can only get better. And Russ McCray says, considering that Cleveland didn't play a few of their top offensive players, I wasn't impressed with the defense. So, and the O-line needs help. All right. So, if you're just checking in, love button. Make sure you're sharing this show with your Washington Commanders family and friends. Fire emoji. Now let's talk. Like I said, I'm referring back to my notes. Let's go down the list, shall we? If everyone's ready for me to go down my list of game notes, definitely hit me with a love emoji, a love button, fire emoji if you want me to go through these here notes. Again, I'm going to be looking down for a minute, so bear with me here. You've all have already seen it. Let me be clear about something. I was not displeased. I was fine with what I saw. I'm not panicked. I'm not concerned. And I think it's because I saw what I saw. I was ready for the Commanders to play someone else, and they did. I was ready to see both units and how they would just respond, right? And I'm wanting to see improvement. I'm okay with what I saw in preseason game 1. I'm not, and hey, maybe it's because I've been out there for a while now. I don't even really know what day it is. I sincerely hope it's Monday because we're having this show, and typically this show is on a Monday. So I think it's Monday. I don't think I saw it was on par for what we've seen during practice. Now, here's what I will say. I saw improvement. I think Robbie said this as time went on. What I appreciated, and I'm skipping down here in my notes, what I appreciated is that the starters played until they scored a touchdown. See, that's the kind of stuff I pay attention to. I want to see how many reps they play. I want to see if a field goal is good enough, or if you're going to say we playing until we score 7. I want to mention that because it's been quite a while since we've seen that happen, where an offensive coordinator says, no, you stand in there until you get 7. And I thought that was good. I'm going to tell you what I also thought was good. I thought going for it on the 4th and 3 in preseason was exactly what you want to do. Why? Because this is game time. This is real game action. I'm going to give you an observation that I had when I'm talking about this is real game action, and you have to, it's a game. So you have to simulate what would happen. So you have to be comfortable with going on it in 4th and 3, whether it's preseason game 1, week 7, week 16, go for it. And they executed, which was good. And then right after that next play, touchdown, Howell to Jahan. I paid attention to how excited the Cleveland Browns defense was about getting that safety. I said, everybody's real happy, aren't they? But I'm mentioning that because even myself has always said, well, it's just preseason. Football is football. And in a press conference snippet from Coach Eric Bieniemy, I shared with you all last week, he said everybody's out here playing for a job. That's every day. Everybody's out here playing for a job, coaching for a job. So these things matter. They absolutely matter. So I was fine with what I saw. I'm just going to tell you. I wasn't, and it's probably because it's game 1. Now, hey, if it's tomorrow and joint practice by Wednesday, it's probably going to be pretty real for a lot of people. Like, okay, this is going to be harder than I thought. And because the Commanders are dealing with a couple of nicks here and there with injuries, it might get a little testy, right? And I see check-ins from Al Williams and DJ Bland. So make sure you're sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends, because I'm going to get some more into this. Again, I'll wait till Wednesday. By the time we do the show again on Thursday, the weekly DMV Sports Update, if I'm just not happy, or I'm like, okay, well, listen, then that's kind of what it is. I want to acknowledge this comment here. It goes back to the thing about being surprised. And this is what DJ says right here that I want to acknowledge. The O-line was a concern coming in. Yeah. I mean, it's a new offensive coordinator, got new people on the O-line. It was what it was. I don't think Sam Howell has gotten enough credit, because I did now tell you all, for those that I showed the comments about the quarterback room, here's what I told you all earlier in the season. I didn't say they were the best. I didn't say anything like that. But what I did say was this quarterback room is better than last year. And I felt like people should have really been excited about that. I don't think that that's something to just be like, so what? Who cares? No, that's a good sign. And despite what's happening with the O-line, I mean, yes, here's the message that is starting to get clear, though. Let me share this. They understand they have to protect the quarterback. They understand being an offensive lineman. I've said this a number of times. It's such a thankless job. It really is, because people don't understand how important that unit is to the success of the offense. So the fact that they were able to convert, I was okay with it. But see, you're going to get much better players for a whole entire game come regular season, right? When everybody's playing their starters. So, and when everybody's playing their starters, and when for the first half of the season, everybody's going to think they can win a Super Bowl. I want to share something with you all, and then I'm going to get back to my notes, because I meant to tell you all this last week. So if you forgive me for not telling you this, just hit me with the love emoji or fire emoji. My bad for not saying this. It was just a conversation that I was having with some media colleagues across the league. And they said, you know what? Sometimes people call me Candy because that's my name. And some people call me Seawall because that's my nickname. And I said, in this instance, this is how I know people are serious when they start calling me Candy by my name. I'm like, oh, I better pay attention. They said, you know what, Candy? During this time of year, everybody believes they can win the Super Bowl. Everybody. It's not one front office that goes into the season saying, well, we're going to lose this year, but we're going to go out here and play anyway. Nobody at this time of year, nobody's thinking that. Everybody believes they have a chance because you never know what the season may hold. And that resonated with me because, you know, we do all of the game schedules and records and all this, that, and the third, but front offices are like, hey, we got a shot at this, everybody. And I just thought that was interesting because, you know, sometimes you say, oh, they always think they can win a Super Bowl every year. But guess what? I was told everybody thinks they can, at least until about week 7 or 8. That's when the reality really starts to set in. And for other teams, it's probably reality starts to set in around week 4. But I just felt like that was important to share that insight because, you know, sometimes, like I said, we go back and forth and people are like, it's totally not going to happen. But that's not what the business side of these teams are thinking. They thinking everybody better win. Keep that in the back of your mind because I think it's an important point. I don't want to go to the defense just yet. Cole Turner. I appreciated Cole Turner. 85. I appreciated Cole Turner. I appreciate him in practice as well. That was that fourth and 3 when they went for the 4th and 3. That conversion to Cole Turner. It's something that we see often, and I appreciated that. I want to go to what I've been sharing with you all about kick return and punt return. Love button, fire emoji in the chat if I told you. It's a couple things that I told you, and now you're saying it. All right. All I'm saying is, first time Dax Milne goes out there, he steps out of bounds. Come on, Dax. There's a lot of competition at that role of a kick returner or a punt returner. That job is not solidified. And I want to know if you like what you saw in Kaz Allen. And keep in mind that Jahan is very much a possibility for either of those positions. Keep in mind, Antonio Gibson is very much an opportunity or very much a contender at that position as well. But I told you all, keep your eyes open. Kick return, punt return. Kaz Allen. You know, another player, and he had a good with the second reps. Byron Pringle. There's been a lot of conversations about Byron as well. He had a good game 1. Am I ready to move on to the defense? Any other things about the offense? I mean, we already know what it is. The offensive line has to, you know, get better. But I prefer them they needed that on Friday. Trust me on that one. Because everybody understands what they need to work on. They do. Especially Andrew Wiley and others. I told you all before, left guard was a conversation that needed to be had. And so you all saw that for yourselves. I do want to mention, and I know some of my media colleagues weren't necessarily feeling me on this one, but I really wanted to mention this. Sam Cosmi and Zadarius Smith. I'm telling you. And that's because Cosmi has to go up against Daron Payne on a regular basis. All right. So I had to smile, you know, because, you know, Cos did get beat real bad. But after he got beat bad that one time, he recovered. But I had to smile because I said, that's Cos. He understands he got beat. But you ain't going to beat him too many more times like that. You really not. So that was a good matchup. I enjoyed watching that matchup. Defense. Defense, are we ready? We got just a few more minutes, you all. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat because we just got a few more minutes. I don't want to get yelled at by the TV people because they yelled at me all last year. And sometimes I paid attention and other times I did not. Someone who has had a quiet camp, and I mentioned this to you all a few weeks ago, but you know what? I had to smile on Friday night watching the game, Percy Butler. I did. I saw Percy, and I know he's working really hard. And I wanted to acknowledge Percy because I could be a tough critic. So when somebody does something, and when I have high expectations, and somebody does something that's great, I want to acknowledge that. Or that's good, that's promising. It's a good thing. First team defense, all I'm saying is, why did it have to get down to the goal line? That's all I'm saying. The goal line stop was impressive. It was. And did you all see Emmanuel Forbes? Did you see him? All of these guys, the defense, and there's a comment that came through on my page that I want to acknowledge, and I don't think we captured it in the comments, and that was, didn't see as many missed tackles, which is great. And I believe Fred Ballinger had that comment. And let me say this. That's what I'm talking about. But please understand something very key that's different about the offense and the defense. This is Jack's defense, and he has known these people. This has been a few years now for them to develop the chemistry, to develop everything that they're doing. They know Jack. Jack knows them. And so when the new guys come into the fold, they have a solid group that says, this is how we do this. Right? So that's why there's such a difference you see on the offense, because it's completely new. It's a completely new situation. Right. So they still have to come up quickly. I'm not saying they don't have that. I'm not saying they have more time to adjust. What I am saying is the defense, this has got to be their year. And I'm going to continue to say it. This has got to be barring any injury, because we always got to say that, and that's a valid point. Barring any injury, this has to be the Washington Commanders defense year. This has to be the one where I don't even want to see you get down to the goal line. I don't know if they thought they was in practice for a moment there. I don't know if they just was kind of like, was taking them a minute, and then they had to realize, oh, that really is Deshaun Watson running down the field on us like this. Oh, okay. We here. It shouldn't have even had come to that. That's my personal take and professional take as well. It shouldn't have even come to that. But they did what they were supposed to do, and they were able to get off the field. Good. But that's not going to cut it in the regular season. While we still have a minute or so left, let me tell you all something. I don't know what day of training camp it is, to be real honest. I don't. I stopped counting around 13. But here is a moment I have been waiting for, and that was Ravens Commanders joint practice. I gave you all a few dates. I said, I'm going to give you some milestones, and one of those milestones was the first preseason game, and that's behind us now. These joint practices, yes. This is important. This is a defining moment in training camp for this group. Defining moment. As I'll repeat what Coach Rivera shared in his presser the other day, which was, yes, the coaches have talked. Yes, they know, and the coaches and the coordinators have talked about what they want to work on, what they want to do, and all those things. So this is going to be good. This is a defining moment. So when we have this live discussion on Thursday, you're really going to want to meet me back here, because that's going to be a bulk of the conversation, to be honest with you, is the joint practices and how I felt that went. And we're going to see what happens. But this I've been waiting. This is what I've been waiting for. Seriously, I had a conversation with David Aldridge, and he looked at me and he said, well, I already know the answer to the question because you just said it. And that was, just wait to until those joint practices, because that's going to tell you exactly what you're dealing with, at least for the first part of the season. So more to come, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed the show and enjoyed getting all of the updates and content and my overall thoughts on preseason game 1. Hope you enjoyed some of the sights and sounds and snippets from the press conferences the last couple days. You all make sure you stay locked in, and I will be talking to you all again soon.